An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? You're stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 160. I'm Aaron Pollier.
And I'm Darlene.
We watched a classic that both of us hadn't watched before. I decided that we needed to because, well, my background with this movie is every time I saw it, I always thought that this was going to be a stoner movie that was science fiction that I just wouldn't like because it was always talked about not by science fiction people that I was around, but by stoners.
It's got gratuitous boobies.
There is nudity in it. In fact, we haven't even said what it is. It's from 1968. Can you guess? It is Barbarella. I've never seen this movie before. I'm ashamed to say it.
And the whole thing that explains it to the T is based on a French comic series by the same name.
Yes.
It's 98 minutes long.
It's 98 minutes long. It's an actual movie. So we have our main character, Barbarella, played by Jane Fonda, who is a sex icon because of this movie.
And she keeps taking off her clothes or getting them tore up and putting something else on.
She is topless in a few of these scenes. We get to see things.
Well, right straight from the credits. She's undressing herself from a spacesuit? Yes,
and it's actually filmed in a very interesting way. Now, have you seen this movie before, Darlene, before we get into the plot? No. Okay, so you never have. You have never experienced the Barbarella.
Wow, that's all I gotta say.
See, okay, we'll get to what we truly, what our end opinion is once we get through the plot.
I really have to think of this as art and not a movie.
And I disagree. I actually think it is very much a movie. There is a plot. Is it a good plot? No, but there is a plot there.
Okay, I'm a person that likes certain movies because I consider them art and not movies.
Like 2001, which you despise for being art and not a movie?
No, that's the sound that I can't take.
Okay.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, but that has a good plot. You don't like the plot, though, I guess.
No, I don't mind the plot. It's past being a movie and is into the art to me.
You could likely mute. What you're trying to say is you could mute this movie and still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, yes, I think you could mute this movie and still enjoy it, though I do think
the music is kind of weird too. So I think that would probably mute it would be probably wrong too.
Okay. So let's talk about the plot. It does start with a person in a spacesuit slowly stripping. And she is floating in zero gravity, and this is Jane Fonda as Barbarella, and she is nude in this. So obviously don't watch this with your kids. And they actually filmed this in a very interesting way, Darlene. You said, "Oh, how do they film this? She's sitting on a chair." No, she's not. Believe it or not, she's not. They filmed her on a plexiglass surface, just laying there, and then back projected the back scenery onto a screen behind her.
The back scenery, by the way, is a gold colored
shag
carpet room with that is
there's paintings and sculptures.
Paintings and sculptures, but the painting is
it's that
one
dot.
of those dot
paintings. It's the one
Impressionist.
it's the one that's in Ferris Bueller. I forget the name of the painting. I'm not an art person. I
But
apologize.
the other one is a Greek goddess
Something like that.
with a moon.
Okay. So she kicks the suit to pieces everywhere. She gets a transmission from the president of Earth. And there's a scientist named Duran. Yes, that's where the name comes from. Okay. And he's disappeared near a star called Tau Ceti while on a trip to Polaris. Okay, fine, whatever. That's fine. They're both Tau Ceti and Polaris are real stars.
And the president, she's totally naked at this time, and he says, she goes, "Let me get something on."
And he's like, "No need.
No need. This needs
Okay.
to be urgent."
But here's the thing.
They introduce each other with love.
Here's the thing about the society of the general universe at this time is that sex and nudity are kind of a accepted thing in the future.
But their sex is with a pill.
Yeah, it's like a psychic connection rather than a physical act. And there are times where, like, she experiences the physical act of sex in this movie and she really enjoys it. But in general, civilized society has moved past that and uses pills. When they take pills together, they kind of lock eyes and lock hands and they just twitch.
They twitch and their hair curls or fizzes or something. You get to see that too.
That's actually pretty funny, though. That's a really good scene. Anyway, Duran's disappeared, and he is the inventor of a thing called the positronic ray, which is a weapon. And weapons are like, oh my god, this is a terrible thing because weapons have not been around for a while. Peace and love have basically ruled the universe for a long time.
Yes, but the president gives her a lot of weapons.
Yeah, there's a teleporter. The president teleports her a device that allows her to recognize who Duran is because there isn't good pictures of him. All right. But also a whole bunch of weapons from the Museum of Weapons. And I guess it's like the only place...
Museum of War.
Museum of War. It's the only place on Earth that actually has weapons, and some of them are antiques. Like,
two of
there's like
them
a
have
crossbow.
hands on it.
It's like a crossbow or something
with
like that.
Hands on it.
It's very strange. So, she basically changes into her like a plastic uniform. There's multiple costume changes for Barbarella, and Jane Fonda looks good in all of them. Correct? And they're all weird costumes.
I think this would be great for being a kid with all those costumes. If you had a Barbie doll, you could put all those.
Yeah, but you don't want to give kids these costumes where one of them has like plastic boobs.
It has a plastic, not
anatomically correct boob.
Yes, but it's.
Some of the costumes are cute.
There's no way that if
the skunk costume.
That's
horrible. Cute. No, that's cute.
She kept on getting her tail everywhere.
And it was a joke. The tail kept getting caught. Anyway, let's get back to the plot. So she sets a course for Tau Ceti. She goes to sleep for the trip and is woken by the computer. Okay? Computer says, the computer sings to her, prepare for nourishment. Prepare to insert nourishment. And she has to like take this drink
that's green and she
doesn't like
the
it.
Taste.
So on arrival, they are immediately hit with this weird gravitational disturbance that there's like groovy special effects outside the ship. And she crashes on planet 16 of the Tau Ceti system. Okay. The computer goes through a whole bunch of babble, but basically she's like, oh, good, well, I can breathe out there. And she irises open the ship's outer door, which is an iris door. That's really cool.
Yes, it opens up like a camera.
An iris. So she exits out on the surface and immediately, it's an icy surface.
She's on, it's like an ice lake.
She immediately encounters two identical girls that have walked out onto the ice to meet her. They don't speak her language, and she starts trying to fill around with her universal translator.
The two kids are in, I gotta say this, black page haircuts.
Okay.
Like, what's that woman's name?
Betty Page?
Betty Page, or the person from YouTube.
I don't understand what you're saying. There are so many people on YouTube.
Morticious.
Ask the mortician.
Ask the mortician.
She has bangs. They have bangs.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's the hairstyle that woman wears.
Okay. So they knock Barbarella out and take her prisoner and put her on a sled pulled by a rayfish-looking creature, which is actually really cool.
I called it a snow ray.
It's a snow ray. It's really cool. They find Duran Duran's spaceship and go inside. It's a wreck, and it's filled with twins. And they tie her to like a pillar and set mechanical dolls on her that try to bite her to death.
That have these metal jaws.
And they do start biting her.
And they start taking her clothes again.
Well, no, they start biting through her clothes. And they tear it. Okay, so it turns out that a man that has a robot and a whip tosses a net over the children and rescues Barbarella. And his name is Mark Hand, and he's called a catchman, who his entire job is to catch these children that escape the nearby forest and bring them back.
Or to bring them when they're ready.
To the city. Okay, so anyway, he captures the children, tends them. He's going to turn them over to the authorities, and then he tells Barbarella that Duran Duran might be at the city, and he puts Barbarella onto his ice ship that has these kind of like gossamer sails. And he asks in return for him rescuing her if he can make love to her. And she's like, sure, where are the pills? And they go into this whole thing that, like, in the civilized universe, all this thing about the pills and having sex. And he's like, no. I want, like, real sex. And she's like, oh, okay. Sure. And she just kind of lays back and he says, get your clothes off. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And we don't see any of it, but she's clearly very much enjoyed herself when we go back to see.
Yeah, and this is the part that I get grossed out. He starts taking off his clothes.
And he's a very hairy man.
And he's got a brown, shaggy fur on him. And then he takes it off, and he's still got a brown, shaggy fur on.
Yeah, well...
and Aaron's like, this will be for the girls. And
this is a little bit of love for the ladies, yeah.
This is not good love for the ladies.
Her clothes were wrecked anyway, so she puts on a skunk outfit that he has spare, and it's elegant. It's eleganza. It's Ice World eleganza. And she thanks him for the hard loving. And
and she's in a dream mode. She's like, this is why we stopped it. It's so distracting.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. But let's see here. She gets back into her ship, takes off, and immediately crashes it again.
We forgot about the blue bunnies.
Oh, there are blue bunnies at the children's doll torture scene. This movie is so weird.
There's these bunnies. They're real live animals, and they're just dyed blue.
It looks like they fell into a porta potty and came out. They're porta potty blue. It's awful. Darlene almost spit out her tea. It's true, though, isn't it?
It looks like one of those tiny bowl colors.
I felt bad for the bunnies. They were just like looking around trying to eat fake asbestos snow, and I'm like, this is a hellscape for them. This is hell.
Oh God.
Anyway, she takes off in her spaceship and immediately crashes straight through the damn ice lake into the ground.
In the labyrinth.
Into a underground cavern labyrinth where we get to see.
She walks
How do we explain this?
Out a few steps and then passes out.
She's rescued by an angel.
Yes, an actual angel.
Like, he has angel wings. He's blind because angels are blind and angels have no memory.
he got his eyes taken away from him at Soul.
He's blind. He has eyes. It's just that he doesn't have sight. Doesn't matter.
Yes, the sight was taken away by the tyrant.
So it doesn't matter. He rescues her, and we're led through the city. He doesn't fly anymore because he's lost the will to fly, I guess.
Well, he told her about Professor
Ping, who's played by Marcel Marceau, the mime,
and somebody else.
Well, he is voiced by somebody else because Marcel Marceau didn't want to use his voice. He's a mime. If you know one mime, you know Marcel Marceau. Anyway,
This is French.
he leads her through the labyrinth, which has half-naked people stuck in stone, wandering around. We see nudity.
It looks like pyrite.
They're stuck and like they're groping each other while in stone,
Some
outside of stone,
and they're eating orchids.
eating orchids. It's a very strange scene. We meet Professor Ping, who's like, no problem, I'll fix your spaceship.
And he puts a glass to his forehead.
He like sticks just like a glass to his forehead, but he says, hey, look,
so he can see.
Pygar, who is the angel, can take you to, is it Sogo the city?
Sogo, yeah, it's Sogo.
It's Sogo the city.
I had to look it up for what actually they were saying.
And that's where Duran Duran might be. So Pygar takes Barbarella to his nest while they're figuring all this stuff out.
After they take Professor to her vehicle,
yeah.
so to fix it.
And I think they make love as well because she's naked in filth.
Oh yes,
It's like an owl's nest with like loose feathers and straw, and I'm like, ugh, that got everywhere. You know, there's angel poop everywhere in there.
And
have you ever seen the inside of a bird's nest?
Yes,
that's what it looked like.
No, it looked far worse.
It looked bad.
And she's just laying in
There's
it.
like
some
mice skulls in there and stuff that he's eaten and regurgitated. Wow.
It looked like moss.
Yeah, I know, but so anyway, he warns her about the Leathermen, who are there. There's blackguards that are the Leathermen, and they have no fleshy substance, and they work for the tyrant, and they patrol around. And it turns out now that Pygar has had sex, he can fly, and Barbarella has inspired him to do so. So he flies her to Sogo, and crystal spacecraft attack fighters come out and attack them, and she uses her micro rocket launcher to fight them off. Okay, so that's fine. They make it into the city, and Barbarella is accosted by men, but she's rescued by a one-eyed woman that calls her pretty. Now, this is the tyrant. We later learn this is the tyrant. She runs to find Pygar, and he's actually being attacked by people from all over the city, but he seems to be just kind of taking it in a weird way. By the way, at this point, Barbarella has also shoved a laser gun into Pygar's crotch. So he's crotched a laser gun.
This is not something we would suggest for you to do. All these movies where they stick
guns down like somebody's belt or in their
pants.
This is not good gun safety.
That's not gun safety.
But to be honest, Barbarella doesn't have a lot of gun experience.
But it's also dead because her leg thing.
No, you said her vagina guard. The box that's over her vagina that has all the blinky lights on it.
At this point, it's on her ankle because that's where Duran Duran takes it from.
Okay, well, you said it was dead. Well, I mean, that he later on says it's dead, and that's what was powering the laser gun.
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, we're diverging from the plot again.
Oh, and she's got this bracelet or weird thing that's supposed to show who is Duran Duran.
Yeah, because I said that already. That's in it's a device to recognize Duran Duran. So they end up going into the Chamber of Ultimate Solution, which is like it thanks them for choosing death, and that they can choose one of 3 doors to have death. But if they don't choose, one door will be chosen for them. And they're rescued by Duran Duran, who we don't know is Duran Duran at this point, but it's the concierge. Okay. And we also learned that at this point, there's a liquid below the surface of the city that feeds on evil energy. And it's called the Animus. It likes evil, and it's infecting everyone in the city with evil intent. So, it eats evil, but then gives evil back. Regardless, Barbarella, Pygar is netted and taken away, and then he ends up, the concierge ends up throwing Barbarella down a pit.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yes. She goes down a pit and ends up in a nightclub.
Yes, that's right.
This is where I know. This is where we meet the twins from earlier that captured her, and they're like, oh, I don't know what the hell to do here. We're new here. What's going on? And this is where Barbarella finally meets, quote unquote, the great tyrant. She recognizes who she is. Escaping from the labyrinth is a crime, so Pygar is to be punished. Pygar is strapped to a rack, and this is where Barbarella pulls out the hidden laser gun from his crotch. She threatens to melt the great tyrant's face if she doesn't let them go, but it's a bluff because her power pack is dead.
And Duran
points that out.
Points that out, and then takes her away.
Takes her away, and she's put into the cage, the bird cage. Which is filled with parakeets,
finches, and something else.
And they start tearing her apart. But she falls down another pit.
I'm very sorry about these birds. This film really endangered a lot of animals.
I don't know if it endangered animals or not. I think those birds were just having fun.
Okay.
I was more concerned about Jane Fonda having poop all over her from that many birds.
The blue bunnies?
The blue bunnies are more likely to have been harmed by that blue dye than the parakeets. The parakeets actually looked like they were fine.
They must have stuck something on her to have them just...
Oh, I'm sure they covered her in seeds and honey or something like that, and they pecked at her. I felt bad for Jane Fonda in that. I honestly did. All right,
and then then she goes down another chute.
She goes down another chute, and it turns out that there is a rebellion in the city. And the rebellion is led by a guy named Dildano. Thank you.
Yes.
So, thank you. Thank you very much. And nothing about the rebellion is actually decent. They're a complete farce. Except the fact is that they actually have the one thing to take out the great tyrant, which is the invisible key to open the invisible wall in the Chamber of Dreams. I remember all this, goddammit. But everything else about their technology, including these chutes and like the suction tube to shoot people up through the city, doesn't work. Nothing works.
And he can't find anything.
He can't find anything. It's all just everywhere in his headquarters.
He had to find the pill.
The pill, because he's like, I want to have sex with you. And she's like, why does everyone want to have sex? And she goes, fine, I'll get undressed. Thank you for saving me. And he's like, no, not like that. I want to do it the Earth way. And he has these pills. And this is where we have like their hands smoking and her hair gets curled from, I guess, from the pleasure. And she's like, wow, where did you get those pills?
And then she has to go back to, because they're interrupted.
Yeah, and she has to go back and says, oops, I'm sorry. And goes back while he's still just completely zoned out.
And then his hair smokes and
like spikes out.
Yeah,
and it's really funny. So anyway, they end up getting the invisible key for
good. That was good acting on the person that interrupted, because he's
like, oh,
he will not get eye contact with that guy now.
Yeah. This
like
movie's so
you just walked into somebody having sex.
Does he know they're having sex? Because the whole pill thing is on Earth. Like they don't obviously.
I don't know, but he does the whole thing of I am not giving you eye contact now.
Well, he walks in and kind of looks at him like confused. What the hell's happening? And then that's when he interrupts, like he says something, and then Barbarella comes out of it, but her hair's all curled, and she's like, he's engaged right now. Oh, I have to go back. Just a second. And she goes back and
I think then he realizes that.
Yeah, that's some sort of
and then he won't give eye contact to his supervisor.
So they finally get the damn a radio signal back to Professor Ping about the spaceship. It flies off for safekeeping.
You have the secret door not being able to work.
Yeah. She gets shot up. Barbarella gets shot up a tube when they get the tube working again. after she gets the invisible key for the invisible wall in the Chamber of Dreams.
And gets shot out
Into an
orgy.
Into an orgy where everyone is smoking Essence of Man out of a giant hookah, water-filled hookah that has
There's
a guy
2 of
swimming
them.
in it. Okay,
There's
there's
2
two
of
of them.
them.
All right, big deal.
And that's the only thing that you might see of
There
nudity
might be
of
male
guy.
nudity in there. It's really well
but
hidden,
you
though.
can't.
So it ends up, we end up having Duran Duran grabbing Barbarella and putting her into the orgasm organ. And I forget what exactly he calls it, but that's what I'm calling it. And he plays it, and her libido is so strong that it melts the entire machine.
And he's got dead baddies of women
Like
laying
there's
on the
yeah, there's
floor
women
with
everywhere
clothes.
draped over them because the orgasm organ sucks the clothes off women, which doesn't make sense why she still has the invisible key around her neck for the invisible wall in the Chamber of Dreams.
I don't know either.
It should have been sucked away.
That's
Anyway,
what I was waiting for.
Her libido is so strong it wrecks the machine. Duran Duran is ticked off. This is where we learn that this is Duran Duran.
Because he walks across the
detector, and the detector goes off. All right, so he finally explains the positronic ray that he designed, puts its target somewhere into the 4th dimension. Barbarella convinces Duran to take her to the Chamber of Dreams, to use the invisible key to open the invisible wall, so he can kill the tyrant, but he actually double crosses Barbarella
and takes the key out of the Queen's chamber
inside
as well.
the Chamber of Dreams, behind the invisible wall with the invisible key. Traps Barbarella in there, and Barbarella and now the Great Tyrant have to work against Duran Duran's coup attempt. And his coup attempt is using his positronic ray to wipe out attackers.
Well, first he uses the leather guards.
Oh yeah, the Leathermen. The Leathermen. The blackguard Leathermen.
The black
that have no fleshy components.
Yeah, they go after and everybody starts killing them.
Yes, and then the positronic ray is used, and that is a goddamn awesome prop. Where Duran Duran gets into the control.
That looks so Flash Gordon.
I love that entire set.
And there's these crystal planes.
Yeah, no, I mean he gets into that weird seat with like the overhanging helmet thing, and he starts, my positronic ray will destroy you all.
And I would suggest anyone watching this to watch this carefully, because he actually starts.
You say he does. I don't think so.
You
think he ages as he's using the positronic ray.
I think he's starting to age faster
because the animus draining his energy.
I think so.
Maybe. I don't think so, but that's okay. So it turns out that the Queen's bed, which is actually a spread-eagled woman statue that she sleeps on, sinks into the floor, into the animus, where they think they're both going to die. But it turns out that Barbarella's innocence and goodness...
Innocence after having so much sex,
puts a cyst around the bed to protect them from the animus, and the animus like regurgitates them onto the surface,
and does that to the angel too.
Does it to the angel as well, but it also destroys Duran Duran while he's freaking out and trying to kill everyone. Pygar then flies the tyrant and Barbarella back to Sogo, where he seems to be
to the ship,
not to the ship,
to
the labyrinth somewhere.
Because Sogo is all being eaten by the animus.
The end.
Yes, he's still flying when the end comes.
The end. So, this movie, I loved it.
Great costumes.
What worked? Yeah, the costumes.
The story don't, because you're like,
but let's focus on what works first. The costumes. Everyone's costume is amazing.
If you like Flash Gordon kind of esque.
Oh no, this is better. This is better.
Can I finish my?
Yeah.
Plotting. you'll be okay with this one because it goes just kind of like a comic book would,
Everyone's costumes are great.
or over the
The
top.
sets are great. You might think, oh, the shag carpeting spaceship is terrible. No, it is thought through. It is fantastic. It is weird.
How about the big garbage bags full of hair?
I don't care. I think it's fantastic. Darlene, the Chamber of Dreams with the weird glass lenses that are moving around and the giant fiberglass like
Magnifying glasses.
Yeah, they're like lenses that are floating around, and those are like practical things. That's the thing. It's not a special effect. That's a practical thing on the set. And you have these like weird poofs of fiberglass. Those like I don't know, fiber optic looking poofs.
I don't
that
know
are like huge, and they really are there. I mean, a giant hookah where a guy is swimming through it, and everyone's lounging around and smoking Essence of Man. Like, the sets are fantastic. The props, like, okay, like the Duran Duran detector. All right, it's not bad, but it's not great. But the positronic ray, just by itself, is simple.
It's glass,
but it's beautiful.
You can tell it was probably blown glass.
The weird like lava lamp special effects and stuff like that, I don't think rise to the level of this is good. No. It is. It just is. It's not bad.
I could see them thinking that looked like the Dreams because that's when they really used it.
Yeah.
And
no, it's when she's flying through space too. Like at the beginning of the film. I don't think it's bad. I think it's fine. It just doesn't rise into the this is great or this is good category. This works.
The back projection didn't work very well sometimes.
Sometimes it didn't. I agree. But what I think worked as well, and you might disagree with me on this, I actually think the acting was pretty good. It was not supposed to be subtle acting.
No, it's supposed to be over the top cheese.
And it's done with a straight face, and that's what makes it fun.
I'm sure they had problems with that one.
Yes, I'm sure they did. But like Jane Fonda, Fonda's fine. She's great in this, I think.
Can you imagine how many takes that took to go with that conversation between what is it, the catcher?
Oh,
and her,
Mark Hand or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
the kid catcher.
The catcher and her, and that whole negotiation.
Yes.
How many times it would have broke up and
just
into
with laughter? I don't know, man. Like,
I don't think I could have done that scene without giggling.
I don't think I could have either. And the interior of the ice ship with Mark Hand and Barbarella, that was really cool too. Like that weird tunnel thing that's like the prow of the ship that's going on. That's behind Barbarella.
Yes, it's like plastic bag.
Yeah, it's a plastic bag. It doesn't matter. It looks fine.
So is all his
but it looks
sails.
Fun. Again, it gives it this really strange feeling to it.
It has wheels like this. This thing has wheels like something that was in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Bicycle wheel like things.
Yeah.
And
it's great. No, this movie's great, but what doesn't work? There's a couple special effect shots with back projection with Pygar, the angel, that just does not look good. And I have no explanation.
At the very end of it, there's the background projection where Pygar, they're still on the ground.
It's where Pygar flies around. Or he takes off or something like that. Then it does not look good. I agree with that, but what else does not work? Is there anything else that really doesn't work? Obviously, the plot is bizarrely disjointed, but I think it is supposed to be that way. I don't know if I can fault the movie for being so weird as a plot. I don't think it's a fault. I think this is by design.
Oh, and did you notice her spaceship actually those balls on it breathe.
Yeah, they go in and out organically, which is a little weird too. But is there anything else that you can think of that does not work besides like a couple of the special effect shots? See, I don't think so. I don't like, honestly, this is not a bad movie. I think I'm a little ashamed that I have spent this long in my life considering this to be not a movie that I'm going to ever enjoy because of who was recommending it to me.
Okay.
Which, it was not science fiction people that ever recommended this to me. It was stoners and...
The one thing I should say is that the budget was 4 to 9 million.
4 to 9, that's a really large range. 4 to 9 million.
That's what it said on Wikipedia. And it said it only made 5.5 million.
Okay,
but that's U.S. box office.
So I mean,
but it also filmed in Italy and in France, so they might have made it up in those places.
Well, by definition, what you just said, they did. If they filmed in Italy and France, then they probably made it in Italy and France. I mean, but
all we have of figures for the box office is what I'm saying is the 5.5 that they
you're
made
saying
in
they made their money in those countries.
They probably made those monies in those countries.
Finish the sentence, and then I might understand what you're trying
to.
to.
You talk over top of me.
I wasn't, but it has definitely made its money back over the years. I even think Jane Fonda kind of thinks it's a success, even though, remember, she kind of went into feminism hard after this. And she said, well, you know what? This movie is what it is. I did it. That's fine. I wouldn't do it again, but it's a good movie. So, all right, fair enough. I mean, I'm obviously going to recommend this film. I really enjoyed it. I had a grin on my face most of the time, and it wasn't just for topless women. It was because all of the visuals were interesting, or it was just so bizarrely weird. Darlene, did you enjoy it even though there were topless women in this? And I should mention that the toplessness is always very brief and very tasteful. Like when there is sex happening or is about to happen, there is not nudity. The sex is always implied in this. Darlene, I'm sorry for asking you a question then speaking again. Did you enjoy this movie even
I laughed a lot on it.
Okay.
At times it disturbed me.
Okay.
But like I said, I have to judge this thing as what I would judge my movie art.
Okay.
I even put Fifth Element into that category.
Well, yeah, I said that if you watched this, Flash Gordon, and Fifth Element all in the same day, you'd kind of have a bit of a mind trip.
Because they're all
very
weird art movies. I even put the movie the Android one. Why can't I think of it?
What are you talking about?
This is what you always do to me, and it just puff.
You're the one that brought it up.
More Human Than Human.
What? Blade Runner?
Blade Runner. I even put that as an artistic movie.
I mean, it is, but it's also an amazing science fiction plot.
Yes, it does have amazing science fiction.
I mean, one of the best. It's almost, it's quintessentially. But anyway, the one of the things I brought up, we're both recommending it. When we were watching this, is I want to re-edit this film to take Pygar out and put in Brian Blessed as Hawkman.
No, because you have to have an angel, and he was supposed to look angelic.
Well, not all angels are going to look like innocent angels. Some of them are going to look like Brian Blessed.
Or no.
But otherwise, do not remake this film. Like, I know that we went through the plot fairly quickly, but it's because it's so surreal. It has so many little conversations that are happening in it that I'm not going to be able to write down. I mean, as quickly
I stopped writing after the Blue Bunnies.
As quickly as I was going through this plot, I have over 2 pages of notes But most of it is exactly how I read it. Like, okay, this is happening. But there are lots of conversations that occur. This is not a short movie. This is a long movie, but most of the conversations just add in little details that are going on that might not be plot. They might not be incredibly important for a plot, but they are important to really appreciate the movie. I don't know if I have anything else to really say about this, other than I do think it's worth watching. I don't think that it's particularly bad for young kids, because they're not going to get the brief flashes of artistic nudity, I would say. But like, let's say preteens might be like, "Oh, that I understand what's happening."
Preteens would get especially one of the boys would just get this giggle.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying like a 5-year-old would totally not understand.
But I don't think a 5-year-old would enjoy it, because you couldn't even understand it.
What is there to understand?
You have to be, I'd say 21 and above.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I'd say 18 or above. But it's not something that I would be that particularly worried about.
I'd still say it's titillation on that.
Some of it is. But again, I'm judging it by like what I watched as a kid, and
Aaron,
things go over your head as a kid, and
yes,
some of that, most of this would have gone over my head.
What have you watched when you were?
I mean, I watched some pretty crazy things, but let's be honest.
And I get shocked when I hear a foster kid.
When we have a foster kid that's like, I watched Human Centipede. What? What is wrong with you? Oh my God!
I watched Clockwork Orange.
Okay, well, Clockwork Orange is weird, but I liked that movie. See, that's one we could probably talk about at some point. It is pretty good. It might fall outside of our age a little bit more, but Clockwork Orange is pretty quintessential. Any final thoughts about Barbarella? Don't wait as long as I did to watch this.
Yeah, I would say.
Don't wait as long as you did to watch this. Watch this. It's worth it.
And you don't need to actually have the drugs.
No, you don't. And here's the thing. I don't own this film. I rented it on Amazon Prime. I want to own this film. I do. I actually do, because I'm going to rewatch it again. I want to try to see if I can find like one that has like some commentary on it, a Blu-ray commentary track, something like that.
Well, like I said, I stopped really writing notes after the Blue Bunnies, because I was like, I can't write everything that's going on.
Yeah, there's so much.
You want to sit there and stop and go, what? Stop. And I'll tell you this right now. You've got, what is that doll that kills things?
What, Chucky?
Chucky doesn't even scare me. Those dolls.
Those dolls were creepy.
Those dolls.
Weird creepy.
The noise they had them make.
They were like snapping their jaws closed. And yeah, they were clanking like metal, and it was, ooh, wow. So anyway, we'll leave it there. We do recommend it. It's Barbarella from 1968. So I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.